Biohacking is literally trying to achieve nature when nature is not accessible. You want to be as healthy as you can be for as long as possible and then ideally drop dead, right? How do we achieve this? And there's this whole industry around longevity. It's kind of a hot topic in the recent past. And a lot of the things that the big core factors, all the things we know, like body composition, having muscle, not too much fat, like eating well, like nutritious food, getting enough sleep, like that is longevity. That is the 80-20 of it. And like, how many people struggle in later life because of frailty? What is frailty? Is lack of muscle mass, right? People lose independence, they fall, they break their hips, game over, right? Or they can no longer live alone because they're too weak, literally. Muscle mass solves that. Suddenly your health span has expanded by 20 years. And we haven't reached the technology to significantly expand health beyond what those basics are doing for us. There's lots of hacks and other things, but usually they're just replacing the basics, right? Technologies like red light, all this kind of stuff, like, you know, the sun emits red light, you know, like you can also use the sun. It blows my mind. Or like, you know, these grounding sheets, like, you know, you can just like touch grass. And like, biohacking is literally trying to achieve nature when nature is not accessible. Like, it's not a game changer here. Like, actually, you just need to go to bed and build some muscle.
Welcome to Builders, the podcast for impact-driven leaders who are done carrying it all and ready to scale with clarity, strategy, and freedom. I'm your host, Alex Snider, strategic growth architect, creator of the CEO Recode, and second brain to leaders who are building brilliant companies without sacrificing every ounce of their time, energy, or sanity. Each episode, I sit down with bold leaders who've rebuilt, recalibrated, or redefined what it means to lead well and live well on their own terms. We talk messy pivots, leadership upgrades, tactical wins, and the deep personal work it takes to build a business that actually works for you. If you love the episode, make sure you follow, rate, and share it with another leader who's building big and wants to build smarter. And if you're listening and thinking, damn, I need someone in the guts of my business with me, let's talk. Book your free business breakdown call using the link in the show notes. In 30 minutes, I'll help you pinpoint where blockers in your time, team, or strategy are silently stalling your growth and define 2 to 3 high-impact shifts you can implement now to regain traction and build momentum. Now, let's dive in. Let's build it better. Emil, thank you so much for joining me today on Builders. I am so excited to have you and to dig into all the things of your journey.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to chatting.
Amazing, amazing. I am so excited for today. We are going to be talking about one of my favorite business adjacent topics, which I like to call health span. Really not just living a long life, but living a good one. And you're currently the co-founder of the Longevity Clinic. I like to call that like wizard ops daddy, but that's just a reframe that I enjoy. Your journey is one that listeners need to hear. I know this because I've had the absolute privilege of knowing you for many years, being witness to so many parts of your evolution and up levels. And I know that there's going to be so much that people can take away from this in terms of both perspectives, but also tangibles around entrepreneurship and health. As always, I don't even try to do justice to you. So I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. Who are you and what are you building?
Awesome. Yeah, and thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this. So my name is Emil, as you mentioned, and I am currently late co-founder of the Longevity Clinic. As you say, it's an operator style role. We can dig into what that actually means. But long story short, I'm running the business, the inside of the business, and my business partner is kind of the face of the brand and doing the external parts of it. We have been working together for about 12 months, but in the last 6 months, it's really kicked off and exploded in a good way. And it's a bit of a roller coaster. And yeah, we can go from there.
I love it. So you and I have that in common. We are often the engine, the get shit done person to a wild visionary who we love their energy and aspirations and can be quite fiery personalities, quite ambitious. I'd love to go back a little bit in your journey and sort of understand how you got here, and in particular along the arc of how you got here. How did you know that you were meant to be a builder, and kind of why this business, why now?
Oh, wow. What a question. Okay. So I did not know is the short answer. I was a doctor and I went into med school because my dad said you should be a doctor. And at 16, it seemed like a sensible choice. And so I got into med school. I did med school. It was fine. I graduated. I started working as a doctor. It was fine. I had an itch. It wasn't what I wanted to do for the next 40 years, but I had no frame of reference for what else was even possible and so I left full-time medicine and started doing random things, just knowing that wasn't it. Okay, what am I going to do? And initially I got into coaching just because I was always in the gym space. I did a sports science degree alongside my medical degree. I worked in a gym, personal trainer, and so that was obvious to me. And for about 4 years, I was working as a coach, very badly. I mean, I was a good coach. I just didn't know anything about business. I didn't know what an entrepreneur was. And I was doing a lot of medical stuff on the side, working in the emergency room. I was doing Botox, aesthetics. I was doing IVs. I was doing aeromedical transfers. I was hustling. I was trying to figure stuff out. And then at one point, I met a load of internet entrepreneurs, discovered what internet money was, and figured out, okay, I need in on that. And then, long story short, hired a mentor. My coaching business exploded, started a supplement company, closed the coaching business down, took a sabbatical. Then I came back. 3 businesses or opportunities arrived. I took on all 3. One of them was the longevity clinic, which is now the main focus. And so that's the accelerated timeline.
So let's talk a little bit about the longevity clinic. What is it? And I would love that to open up a little bit into the kind of, why did you choose that? Is it because it aligned to skills and beliefs and passion? Is it because you just saw the market opportunity as an obvious no-brainer? This needs to happen now. This is the moment. Like, how did that arrive? And I think understanding a little bit about longevity clinic will help.
Yeah. So context first. Then it's my business partner has been running it for I think the last 3 or 4 years. Him and his wife. His wife is also a medical doctor. He's kind of chief wizard biohacker. Speaking at events, running events, retreats in Dubai, helping individuals, very following his passion. He loves it. He absolutely loves it. And he wanted to take it to another level. We connected. The other business I was a part of, I was running a stem cell company. We had clinics across the US and that piqued his interest with the biohacking. We started chatting. I went to see him in Dubai in January, the start of this year, 12 months ago, and we connected. And then over time, this business, the layer on top of what he was already doing evolved and took form. Then in May, he doubled down on his Instagram. He had around 2,000 followers, and he's since grown it to 400,000. All organic, like all just sheer systematic assault on the algorithm, and it's worked ridiculously well. And that was when I thought, okay, this is the opportunity. I resigned from the stem cell company and went all in on this. Why? I like the co-founder. That's very, very important. 2, health is my jam. So I love being in the longevity space. And 3, I only ever get involved in businesses with an edge. And we can go into specifically what that means, but at a high level, anything that you do in life is going to be hard and frustrating, and it needs to be worthwhile. And most businesses fail, period. And so if I don't see a business as a, 100 out of 10, I'm not even going to bother. And so this business had an edge, and I was like, okay, this makes sense.
I love that statement. I actually do really want to dig into that more, because what you said reminded me, and it's very different, but I worked on a divestment many moons ago in my consulting and M&A advisory days. And when you said if it's not 100 out of 10, like I'm not interested, I think that those are so clear. So when I worked on this divestment, totally different context, but I remember the lead on the client side of this deal. It was a $2 billion divestment. We were divesting $2 billion of mining assets. And we were sitting in a meeting and she said, I don't get out of bed for less than $3 million. And at the time I was just like, what? You know, I was like just like, it really struck me. And I remember, you know, I knew what she meant, but I still kind of chewed on that, because what she meant was, you know, 3 million out of 2 billion was like a point, I don't remember what it is, like 0.125%. Like, it's just not a meaningful amount. And it didn't mean that 3 million wasn't a meaningful amount of money to her personally. It certainly was meaningful to me personally, but in the realm of decision making, and it was, what is the quantum of relevance and trusting a team to handle things that are below a certain quantum, and like having all the things in place for that. So I don't belabor that point, but that struck me, and what you just said struck me in a similar way of how you make decisions. You know, we're talking about longevity and health span, but that relates also to like purpose and fulfillment and overall well-being. And I feel like what you just said is, it seems to me like a core part of your well-being, of how you make decisions.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a core part of, I'm very passionate about decision frameworks, making decisions, which is a whole other topic. But it's similar. Like, the business needs to be worth getting out of bed for. And the issue is more opportunity cost. Like, if you jump on every business, you're saying, by saying yes to something, you're saying no to everything else. And so actually saying no to most things allows you to find the thing that works. And from my background coaching, I was coaching entrepreneurs. And so I've had a very intimate insight into a lot of businesses up to billionaire level, right? And so I just picked it up. I understand why businesses work, why they don't work, and what it means to succeed. And so when I look at a business, I have questions, and if they're not answered appropriately, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not interested. Like, you might succeed, but like, I don't want to be in that battle. Whereas certain businesses, I'm like, okay, there is a ridiculous chance of either this succeeding, or if it succeeds, the gains are disproportionately good. I think Alex Hormozi, a similar concept is suicide margins, where he basically says, when you start a business, you need to have so much like space, because by the time it kicks in, the space is much, much narrower. And so if you start with a small margin, you're fucked. So you need to start with that, like, this could be amazing, because when reality hits, everything changes. And so by the end of reality having its turn, you still need to have a positive outlook. There still needs to be a chance of success and winning.
Yeah, like exponential opportunity. Do you think, I think about, you know, I look at a lot of pitch decks in the startup VC accelerator space, and it's always like, the market is so big that even if we're only gonna get this much, it's a ridiculous amount of money and a no-brainer. Is that kind of?
Yes and no. So the problem with pitch decks is they're selling something, right? And I don't believe, I mean, every pitch deck shows success, most businesses fail, right? And so already I have to say most of these are wrong. Something in these assumptions is wrong. On top of that, it's sales and marketing. Like, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. And so it's not just the pitch deck, it's spending time and understanding the business, asking difficult questions, understanding the founder, understanding the markets. And I think it's actually quite difficult as an investor, because you're quite separated from it. But when you're actually getting into the business, you have to go into the weeds. And sometimes it takes a little while before you can see the truth. But I think you can screen most people pretty quickly. Either they bullshit, they don't have an appropriate answer, or something just doesn't fundamentally make sense. For example, here I have a product, it's amazing. I'm like, okay, cool, what's the marketing plan? They're like, oh, social media. I'm like, okay, well, that's not a plan. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
So
the product is irrelevant, right? You can.
Okay. I love that.
Well, I mean, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
But no, I love that. So, because what I want to dial in on what you said, because the assumptions may be incorrect to capture the share of the market, or that the assumptions on the market are incorrect. However, I would argue those are relatively easy to vet for, whether the assumptions and the maths. What is so much harder is to actually execute on the idea and the plan. Not even talking about things changing externally, just for the internal team to execute. And I think as an investor, you know, we always say early on, you're really investing in the team and your belief that they are the people to do the thing, right? And to pivot and to adjust and to get there and make appropriate decisions with your money along the way. And I feel like, you know, that's also, as somebody who is often joining in-flight businesses, there's a very similar assessment. The idea and some of the numbers, you can check those, más o menos, more or less objectively. But what you talked about, and actually this is one of the reasons I asked you this, because I know that you really like decision frameworks, but I also know there's a level of you know, interpersonal reading that has to happen, particularly if you're going to get into that as a co-founder, right? Like I always say, I've been approached to co-found, and I'm like, it's like a marriage. It's 6 to 10 years before you even know if it works. That commitment level is massive. So talk to me a little bit about how you see those things interplaying.
The interpersonal, particularly?
The interpersonal read of like, is this a team that can get this done, or that I am going the right plug-in to support them alongside a more maybe objective decision framework? Yeah.
I mean, that definitely forms a part of it. Now, when we started this business, there was the three of us, my co-founder, his wife, and me. Since then, in the last 4 months, we've expanded to 15 people. And so we built the team, and we're still building the team as we go. But yes, so to me, operations is literally just people management, and lay it in with strategy, right? Seeing the bigger picture while also being able to manage people. Like, I can do all of what is traditionally considered ops, but my goal is to do nothing, right? And just to literally point at people and then point at tasks, and ideally not even that. And so having a relationship to be able to do that while steering the ship, like that to me is ops. And so yes, your business partner is an absolutely core part of that. And I am a very, strong believer in, especially in the world of online. Like, I spent 4 months in Miami in the last 12 to be next to the founder of the stem cell business, because I understood how important the relationship was. Like, it was everything, like whether he listens to me, whether we connect, whether we can have tough conversations. We need to have a personal relationship. We need to be able to, pile into each other and then go get a steak and sauna afterwards and be normal, because otherwise you leave Zoom, you're fuming, the relationship breaks down. And so yes, interpersonal relationships are everything. But in this case, I didn't have the opportunity to check the team. There was no team, but the business partner was a huge part of it.
Yeah, I think at that stage, the team is the other half or 2/3 that you're joining. So talk to me a little bit about the shift from ER doctor to, if anyone sees your socials, fit as fuck entrepreneur, like antithesis of a lot of entrepreneurs, right? Who are sacrificing the gym and putting in the long hours. You were like, looked like you could be winning bodybuilding competitions while juggling multiple businesses, to then, as you said, truly leading a team. And I will dig back into that after. But what has that transition been like for you? Are there transferable skills? Have you had to completely rewire certain ways of working?
Yes. So if I wrote a biography, it would be called Bullshitting with Confidence. Like, I'm making shit up as I go, right? Like, I have no idea what is going on. And so I was a doctor, right? and you follow a path, right? It's pretty laid out. You can't mess it up. You just do the things. And then I left and I was in the wide open world. I had zero idea. I was making shit up. And I stumbled from one thing into another. I just kept trying things. I kept failing. I never perceived it as failure. I just perceived it as a step, which, I mean, call it luck, I don't know. And I just kept going. And I found myself in a position where I was offered these opportunities. And so that was, honestly, that was what, September of last year, so 15 months ago. That was my first foray into operations. Prior to that, I had run a coaching business. I eventually built a small team of, I think, 4 of us, but I was still doing sales calls. I was still doing some of the coaching. I was doing the marketing, right? It wasn't like it was a solopreneur with helpers. And the supplement company, I was the face of the supplement company. There was a team which ran it. I was just looking pretty online, right? And then I had this opportunity to get involved with a, 8-figure stem cell company with 100 employees. And I was like, I have no rights being here, but sure. And I joined initially as medical director, being a doctor and all of that. And then very quickly I was promoted to COO. And again, I had no right running an 8-figure stem cell company with 6 clinics across the US. But I wasn't lying. They knew who I was. We worked together for 4 months. And so I was like, yeah, I mean, I'll do it. And I went in hard and learned all the things, and I got a mentor and all this stuff. But what I realized was that leadership is people plus strategy. And people I am very, very good at. And so that is a transferable skill from accident and emergency, from being a doctor, I did a stint in sales. Like, it's all human psychology and human interaction. Everything is sales. And so if I can sell to someone that they need to lead this department, they need to do this job, and they need to hit these KPIs, I win as an operator. If my dashboard is all green, I win as an operator. Like, technically, if I can do people very, very well, I do not need to know or do anything. And so that has been my strategy, my MO, and it's more and more validated over time. And so I'm going with it. And so yeah, that's kind of how I got here. And I'm now building on that, and it's great.
How you kind of alluded to it again just now, of being a leader is more about getting other people where they need to be than doing yourself. And this is something that, working with people going through the arc from what I call kind of more of a manager mode to a leader, is you have to be so focused on enabling, equipping, empowering others that most of your day is not spent doing things that are quote unquote productive, tangible. There's no checklist. You don't end the day feeling like I did all these things, whatever that might be. It is supremely uncomfortable for most people, and it is one of the places I have to ask my clients to really trust me. I'm like, I need you to trust me and lean in and not start doing busy work, not get trust me, it gets better, it gets easier, and this is the way. And it's the way to, scalability and growth, and usually some of their own goals. It sounds like you unlocked that early, or maybe because you weren't doing the roles within the context of each of these newer companies, you came in already knowing that your role was for that. How has that been for you? Is there like a secret sauce that you think equipped you to understand that or sit in that discomfort? I mean, I know you love discomfort, so.
Yes. Okay, so this is a good question. So yes, you're right. Because I didn't come up through corporate, because I didn't come up in this way, I never got conditioned to be productive, right? And then I closed down my coaching company because it wasn't aligned. I was doing it because I wanted to not be a doctor. And then once I achieved that financial freedom, I lost all motivation to do it. I loved coaching, but I didn't like having a company and being on social media and posting. And I was like, okay, why am I doing this? And this was a big revelation for me, because I was like missing gym sessions to make money so that eventually I can do all the things I love, which honestly is like going to the gym and all these other things. And I was like, why don't I just skip the bit where I make more money and just do the things because I have enough money. And I was like, okay, fine. And I just closed everything down. That was the only way I could figure out how to break that mentality. Like I tried a few other things, they were false starts, I couldn't do it, took a sabbatical. And the sabbatical was essentially indefinite. And at some point I was like, I need some personal growth, I need a challenge. So I went looking, and this was after about 9 months of literally doing nothing. I wasn't doing nothing, I was playing board games and had a puppy, and it wasn't nothing. I was busy, but nothing productive. I was doing no networking, like no work related. Like I wasn't replying to anything, texts, I wasn't going to events. Like I was purposefully losing all momentum. And then so when I got these opportunities, one, I just come from doing nothing, and I didn't want to suddenly become a busybody. I didn't want to start doing all the things. I was lazy. And two, I didn't have to be there. And so I had this crazy leverage, and I apologize that this is maybe not like transferable necessarily, but there is a lesson in it in terms of, I was like, I'm not doing like this stuff, I don't want to, I don't enjoy it. Like this is how it should be, and I'm gonna stand by that because I have no fear of, you know, being fired or being called out or anything like that, because I don't need to be here, and this is how it should be, and I'm sure of that. Like, let's go. And I'm always up for learning and iterating and everything else. I'll get into the trenches if needed, right? Especially as a co-founder. But the moment I can not be in the trenches, the better. And my goal is to do nothing. My goal is to, as I say, literally point at things. Ideally, not even that. Walk along the beach here and drop voice messages on my phone. Like, that would be great. Occasionally do a call where you see me on the beach, like ranting and raving. But yeah, so that was how I got here. The point being that it definitely works. It definitely makes sense, and it is definitely the highest leverage thing you can do as a leader of a company, an internal leader, should we call it, versus a COO or whatever.
Well, I mean, you're obviously moving in the right direction, because I do see you ranting and raving on the beach at 7 a.m. sometimes. So if that's a sign of success, check. I'm wondering, and maybe you've already alluded to this fully, but do you think that this is something intrinsic in you, or was this like a learning lesson either from your experience in being a doctor, being a coach, and this was a decision to do things differently after your sabbatical? Or I think
so
this
I think
is where people get stuck, and so I'm and I know you are one of the most sort of self-aware, deep work people I know. So if anyone is going to understand themselves and be able to share it, I feel like that's you.
Yeah, I mean, let's dig into it. So, you know, I think it was Steve Jobs who said the dots only ever make sense when you join them backwards. So, something like that. I've butchered it, and essentially what I realized was, you know, being a doctor, people skills, being a coach, being able to coach my team, and it's essentially just coaching, right? Put me in a position, and then throw in the sabbatical, put me in a position where I didn't have experience of you know, random busy work. I certainly didn't want to do it, and I was very good at persuading and coaching people to do the things, and I was very happy to let them almost not struggle, but like learn and grow, like with my clients, right? And that all put me in a very good place, which one worked in real life experience. But look, I'm not someone who just like goes with the flow. I'm like, okay, well, let me read all the books about leadership management, operations, blah, blah, blah. Let me hire a mentor. And all of this validates what I'm learning, what I'm doing, what I'm seeing, and makes me double down on it. And so when, you know, someone asks me to, you know, go back into the trenches, I can make a fair assessment and say, do I need to be in the trenches? Is this life or death? Or can I let people suffer a little bit and learn and grow? Because ultimately, for long-term success, everyone needs to sit in a little bit of discomfort. The employees and leaders and managers need to sit in the discomfort of fucking up or there being a gap, and the leadership needs to sit in the discomfort of allowing other people to do the work, as long as it's not critical, right? You can't let things crash. But when there's an opportunity to let people grow, 100% you should do it. I'm always building for the long term, like survive in the short term, moonshot in the long term. Like I'm not here to, check in, check out, and earn an hourly wage. Like that's not me. I'm here for the disproportionate gains.
When I think that in itself makes you an incredible person for people to learn from and be around, because everything flows from the top. It's contagious. I love what you said. I call that safe places to fail. And so I say to my clients, like, no matter how great your team was, let's assume you picked everyone right and you've got the things in place. If you don't give them the space, they can't step up, right? If you don't step up a level, there's nowhere for them to step up. You will lose your best people because they'll get frustrated, and your mediocre and whatever people will comfortably sit with you always catching the balls that they drop. So you have to create that space to see how they step up, to see how they own it, as you said, in non-mission critical. That's why I call it safe places to fail. You need to see how they step up. If they don't, they need to learn the lesson, and you need to make decisions, but it can't tank the company, right? So I think phenomenal explanation. And I want to touch back because we've talked a lot about people, right? People and ops. And you said leadership is strategy plus people. Does the strategy come from board games? Where did you learn to strategize? I mean,
so you know how in entrepreneur land people define their superpowers, the things they love doing that they're really good at. And so for me, my superpowers are always people and big picture thinking. And it's a good question. Where does strategy come from? I mean, it's not from board games or like video games. I love all that kind of stuff. And I'll tell you why, because to me, I'm always looking at the biggest picture, the biggest game that I can look at. People get obsessed with the game of business. And I'm like, okay, but is it the game of business that we're playing, or is it the game of money? Like, what is the goal of the game? And like, how do I win? And then even greater than that, like, what is the goal of life? Like, is it to make money, or is it to enjoy life, right? And when I realized that, okay, I stopped making money for the sake of it and started enjoying life. And so I suppose I had reps in that kind of biggest picture thinking. And so I'm always looking as like, what is the big play here? And then that allows me to kind of see which way the ship is going, and then look back inside and move the pieces, the crew accordingly. And so I don't know where it came from, apart from I've always thought in that way. Is like, how can I, like, what is the game that I'm playing? I don't want to get caught like playing the mini games, like being distracted with stuff that doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm not sure specifically where that came from, but that's an interesting question.
I suspect at least partly we both have a background in rugby, and so I am a really firm believer that my athletic career really programmed like my CPU for strategy, seeing the field, seeing the moves, and then also like live iterative scenario planning, which is like a superpower in business and absolute fucking kryptonite in your personal life, and for your sanity. But I think, and not to tell you where you got it from, but I just happen to know that I know kind of how you think and how you see the world, and I suspect at least some of it, at least was muscles built, if not, originating from that kind of space.
So actually, that's sorry. Finish your thought.
No, go ahead.
I think you raise a good point. So rugby, yes, but health in general has been a template for me for everything. And actually, that is a very interesting thing. So I've been doing the health thing for 20 years when I started working in the gym, probably longer if you include like my parents getting me into roller hockey and skiing, and I played rugby since I was like 11, but like proper gym, getting into the nerdy part of it from, call it 16, 18, something like that. So over 20 years ago. And in health, I'm sure, everyone is aware, you kind of can get lost down these rabbit holes, whether it's a diet or a workout program or, nerding out on things. And I was in it for so long that through sheer attrition, I learned that, like, what are the common factors? What are the common denominators? What is the actual big goal that I'm trying to achieve? What is the easiest way to do this? Like, what is the big picture, and what is the minimum I can do to get there? And maybe that's strategy, maybe it's not, but then I'm putting all the effort on these super high leverage activities to get me to where I want to go, which then opens up bandwidth to just honestly just observe. Because if you're constantly like in the weeds, you can't see the bigger picture. And so maybe it's not even like a strategy superpower. Maybe it's just that I'm so good at identifying the most important things, systematizing them so they take up a little bit of my bandwidth, and then what I perceive as laziness is actually just me having the bandwidth and space to not be in the weeds and just look, and anyone who stopped to look would be able to see what I can see, right? It's nothing crazy. It's just like, okay, like in a rugby pitch, you're on the side looking at the pitch instead of being on the field. Okay, now I can see what's going on here, right? And anyone could do that. They just go to the side.
Even on the pitch, the second row, whose head is between two other people's butts, just has to listen and follow. The 9 and the 10 who are out in the open in between are seeing and directing, right?
Yeah.
And
so maybe that's it.
As soon as you said observe, I was like, I think
that's it.
Creating the space to observe, and obviously, you need to be able to see patterns, and as humans, we're pattern detectors. Those of us who are a little more neurospicy are maybe a little stronger at it because there's like a survival mechanism growing up. But like that, I think, is really clear. You have said the word lazy so many times, which I love because I actually do think, speaking of superpowers, the extreme, which we're all extreme in entrepreneurship and athletics at high levels, like the extreme urge or ability to get the most out of the minimum effort is actually so powerful. It's just that you have to be good at it, right? Like there's a lot of things are double-edged swords.
Yep.
And if you can solve for the right side of it, it is how you create that bandwidth, that ability, even when it comes down to like having the self-awareness to understand how you work, right? Like I always say that, to be a truly great leader, a truly great entrepreneur, someone who can build something, you have to manage yourself before you can manage others, right? If you can't be, emotionally regulated and understand what I would call your cheat code, right? The ways and environments and methods in which you optimally function, then good luck being a safe place, let alone observant leader that can get the best out of other people. So yeah, I love that. I'm wondering about, have there been moments where, I think what we've shared already is pretty obviously not a linear path. Have there been moments where you've had to just like rewrite a belief, or you've been like, this thing that I have, been taught or understood or believed is just not serving me anymore. Like this is not the way. Have you had those kind of pivot moments in this journey?
Yeah. And I documented them on my arm with 3 tattoos.
Oh, okay. Do tell. We love a visual. Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. So, I call them like quantum leaps. In 2021 was the first one. It was a red band for those just listening. And it was a very painful year. There was a lot of stuff going on. I had a lot of therapy. I did a lot of personal work, and I reached a point of the pain was so difficult, so unbearable. I went the full circle and reached a point of bliss. And I was like, pain is growth. And the more pain I can tolerate, the more I will grow. And a lot of like 95% of the pain is the frustration and like grippiness that you put onto it. And so if you release that, you can actually tolerate a lot more and you will just grow faster. When you frame it like that, like, we've had a very painful couple of months, there's a lot going on, but I'm like, like this is great. Like I'm growing rapidly. If I can tolerate this, then perfect.
Is that a pain versus suffering? Like pain is part of life, suffering is optional. Do you ascribe to that?
Pain is part of life, suffering. Yeah, exactly that. Like you can choose to suffer. Like pain is a thing. And like, if you like stub your toe, there's no actual damage done. It's just painful. And once you kind of realize that, you're like, okay, well, this is just telling me that something might happen. It hasn't happened, and so I can ignore it, right? And once you get that control over the situation, it's like, okay, I can either now make a big deal out of this. So much of life is psychosomatic, is in our heads. We can make of it what we will, and we can go down that rabbit hole, like perception and all of this. Nothing is real. But pain more than a lot of things. And so the more you can tolerate, especially like emotional pain and stuff, and turmoil, stress, like stress is all made up, right? And so yeah, it's all in your head. And if you can tolerate it, then you will grow. So that's the first lesson.
Yes.
The second was effortless flow, so detachment from outcomes. And it kind of goes with you set an intention, you set a goal, you take action to the best of your ability, and then you release from the outcome. And the way I came to that was because I realized that I'm very good at hitting goals. None of the goals gave me anything that I thought I wanted. Like I wanted money, I got money. Okay, good. What's the next goal? I wanted a six-pack, I got a six-pack. It didn't make me happy, but it was great, but it didn't make me happy. Wanted to be a doctor, blah, blah, blah. Got very good at hitting goals. And so actually the goal is the journey. And so the outcome is irrelevant. You can detach entirely from it. And that just gave me so much peace, because there's no destination. Like you set a destination just to give you a direction of travel, but actually the steps are what is important. So that's the second one. And then the final one was simple alignment, which basically I was seeking alignment. Okay, what does that mean? It means operating day to day as close to my true self as possible. And what does that actually mean? It means removing everything that is not aligned. So that's the simplicity part. And so I started to brutally cut out everything that was not aligned, which at that time included my business, which was making good money, which was insane. Why would anyone do that? It wasn't aligned. Simple as that. What was I going to do next? Absolutely no idea. I'm going to do nothing for a bit, because that's the only way I will be able to see the next steps. So those were the 3 quantum leaps, rewiring of beliefs. Each one I sat on for a year, set the intention, refined it, experienced it, and then when I eventually embodied it, I got the tattoo, because I remember it. It's on my left arm. I can see it all the time. People ask me about it. I reinforce the lessons. I talk about it. They're fine. Like they're not like the most aesthetic things in the world. I don't care. They're here to remind me of stuff, and they do a very good job of that.
I love that. Big and bold, right? It's kind of
the way you. I love it.
Life. I love it. So you said none of the goals gave me anything I wanted, and that is, I think, a fundamental piece of, I think, something both you and I have navigated in different ways and have probably worked with our clients on, which is the idea of like goals versus identity, the journey, like growth. And I always like to ask people about wealthy leadership, which is my branded way of saying success on your terms, right? Like you define it and live it rather than living up to, and I mean, you became a doctor because that's the thing you do, right? So many of us, I would hazard to say almost every single person at some point has measured themselves against a societal norm. Let's just super basic.
100%,
right?
You have to, yeah.
Right? You, like that, it's out there. And if you look at, people who are, consistent, who are healthy, who are, at least if you get to know them beyond just outwardly, even internally, seem like they are really living the life. Some, if not all, are living a version that maybe isn't fully understandable, and they're kind of okay being misunderstood, and some of them seem really extreme to people, and they persist regardless of that. And so, I love talking about wealthy leadership because for me, having gone through my journey and with the type of clients I work with, we tend to be overgivers. We tend to be people who are sacrificing a lot for the business, the clients, the team, other people. And that is a really faulty operating system that's just not sustainable. And so the changes that I've made and the changes I make with clients, I really think that there is a fundamental need to define success for you overall, the same way I would urge you to define success in your metrics in your business so that you can actually measure for it. And so you are somebody that I think excels at this, and I would love to know, what is success on your terms? Like, what is the headline for this chapter of your life, and how has that changed?
Yeah, so success in the past for me was becoming a doctor. That was the societal imprint. And it was, living the digital nomad laptop lifestyle life, which I achieved, being shredded. These were all success, money. These were all success, and I achieved them, and I didn't feel successful. Like I did, there was a moment of euphoria, and I was like, look, technically I'm successful, but there's someone more successful than me by these definitions, and I can see that doing these things more is not gonna change anything, right? Like, I can see this. So what is the answer? And then that's when I kind of went on this journey, culminating in this kind of simple alignment. And so success for me is each day, each moment, living as close to my alignment as possible. And alignment is not something you arrive at, right? It's a journey. And all the time you get knocked from it, things come in, you have to kind of like flow around them. And so that is the simple version. Like, I am successful every day, either because I'm in alignment or because I've fallen out of alignment and I'm moving back towards alignment. And so I can't lose. Like, nothing can hurt me. And, in a slightly morbid thought, it's like, if I was to die tomorrow, like, I wouldn't be upset. Like, there's nothing I want to achieve. Like, I'll achieve other things, I'm sure, but I know they're not going to bring me anything. Like, then nothing's going to change. Like, if I hit the next monetary milestone or drop an extra % of body fat. And so it's like, life is amazing, and I'm living success every day, but it's not related to anything material. It's related to my actions in each moment and whether I'm in my own integrity.
Okay. So are there like pillars, like personal, professional, health pillars, or is it really a moving target and checking in with like the core alignment and direction, kind of your internal compass?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's nice to say intuition, internal compass, but like, how can that be when there's so much influence on the outside in terms of marketing and society and all this stuff? Like, just like going with the flow and ego, and feeling it out, it almost doesn't work. It's impossible. It's like intuitive eating. It's like, well, there's cake everywhere. Like, intuitively, I want to eat it all. Right? And so, like, it's good to have tools to visualize and figure out what alignment is, what alignment looks like. But ultimately, it is a feel thing. And so the tools are only helping you feel out what is going on. And so, like, I like to use the wheel of life. I used it a couple times, which was like 10 different areas. And I noticed that in a lot of them, I was like 7, 8, 9. And in like 1 or 2 of them, I was like 3. It was family. And I was like, okay, cool. So infinite wisdom says family is important. I'm neglecting it. Let me take action to improve it. And I improved it. Good. That was awesome. Could it improve more? Sure. But I'm moving towards it. Okay, what other area? And the other thing is, you're not looking for 10 across the board, because that's a goal, that's perfection, that's not achievable. I'm just looking at, when I double down on family, what happens to the other areas? This has dropped, interesting. Let me jump over there and observe. And it's the journey, which is alignment. And so the tool just lets me see, what might be dropping. So yeah, health is one of them, finances are one of them. I can't remember exactly, there's 10 of them, but any tool is fine. Health, wealth, relationships, right? And so yeah, that's, I suppose, an answer.
Okay. I think what you're speaking to, at least in part, is, cost trade-offs. And that's what I'm often wondering as people go through these journeys and get clearer on, where they want to be, whether that's a sort of static stasis or a step along to whatever's next, known or not. Are there things where getting here has cost you something or been a big trade-off? Are there trade-offs that you're no longer willing to make?
Yeah, I was certainly, there are always trade-offs, right? You can't do everything. And so, for example, right now my sleep is suboptimal, right? I know this, no shit. And so I'm making that trade-off because I'm doubling down on business, which I'm enjoying. It's personal growth, it's a core value. And that's a trade-off which I don't want to make, but then I'm also not being particularly social. But that's a trade-off I do want to make. Like I'm okay with being a little bit antisocial in the moment. And so, yeah, there's always trade-offs, but it's not about the exact, position in the moment, because we're biological systems. And so everything fluctuates, and homeostasis is, it's an oscillation around a baseline. And so I'm okay with that as long as I'm constantly like pulling things back in. And this sounds so cheesy. It's like I'm doing my best in each moment to live as close to my true self. And each action decision I take either moves me further away or moves me closer. And so that's my benchmark. Like, did that last decision, was it in my integrity? If not, I'm moving away. Like, that's bad. And then why did I make that decision? Like, what was the reason for that? Because you have to evaluate it. And then if you keep going further and further away, maybe you're chasing money your whole life. Okay, regrets of the dying, I should work less, right? And so you need to catch yourself and just start correcting, and that's it. Just taking action in the right direction. That to me is everything.
You're obviously only, partway through your journey and very excited to see all of what, comes next. But if you could look back to, Emil, who was a doctor, Emil, who was starting a coaching business, some key point along that journey, is there something that you wished you knew in that phase?
I would love to go back knowing everything I know now. Like, life would be a video game. Like, it would be crazy. But conversely, I wouldn't want to go through all those like hardships again, because now I know about them, right? And yeah, I wouldn't have done them if I knew what they were going to be like. And so, it's always nice to speculate, but I'm not one for regrets. I don't think they make sense. And so everything that happened for a reason. And people could say, oh, you wasted a decade being a doctor. I'm like, yes and no. Like, it was a formative part of my life. It kind of put me where I am now. And so I don't really regret anything. I wouldn't change anything, because it's fundamentally altering things that made me who I am today, essentially.
Well, and what you say, you are a wealth of knowledge. And I actually think the range of experiences you've had and what I would consider to be fairly endless curiosity, I think you are fascinated in so many elements, which makes you this unique being that is achieving all of these versions that are your success, but which many people would aspire to. And I've even seen you almost experiment on yourself in many different areas. And so I'd love to dig into, I think, before I tap into the specifics, I do think curiosity, and it's not just me, like Stephen Kotler and lots of other people write on, curiosity is one precursor, one part of the formula for flow, for, doing big things, right? Whether you want to be, an Olympic athlete, or you want to be someone who changes the world, or you want to be, an incredible innovator. I think that curiosity is incredible. And I don't think, other than maybe in athletics, that curiosity is ever like fully hemmed into one area. So I think the ability to pull on all these experiences you've had and to be just infinitely curious and an acquirer and then processor of information, like, I just think that is one of the cheat codes to an incredible life.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And actually, interestingly, because when we spoke about strategy earlier, it somewhat bugged me that it was it was coming across as an inherent thing that I had, and I was like, I don't like that. And then we figured out that actually it was just a product of my experiences. Same with curiosity. Everyone is curious. Kids, curious, endlessly looking under rocks and building Legos and whatever. And so actually what it is everyone is curious, but social programming and fear beat the curiosity out of us. And so it's not even about pursuing more curiosity. It's about removing or being self-aware to observe the fear that is stopping you being curious, to then allow it to manifest. It's already there. And actually, just to this little aside, because this is a good point, like the true self, everything is there. And the way I envisage it is like a glass ball, and there's dirt on it. And so the ball is there, that's the true self. And all you need to do is rub the dirt off, right? And that's just get rid of the social programming and everything else. Everything is there. And so that's the same with curiosity. It's there, you just need to rub the fear off, rub the, society said you shouldn't do this, and like see where it takes you.
You make it sound so simple.
And that's why I got the pain equals growth tattoo.
All right, guys, everybody just go get your lessons tattooed. You're good to go.
Yeah.
I want to dig a little bit into longevity. And, I said health span at the beginning. There's a lot of different words. I always want to assume that we have a pretty wide range of people listening who are curious. So talk to me just about longevity at a high level. What is it? How do you see it? Why is it? What floats your boat?
Yeah. Okay. Longevity is literally how long you live, right? In its barest sense. Health span is a very good clarification of it, because it's how long you are healthy for. Obviously, if you live 100 years and 50 of them are bedbound in pain, it's suboptimal. So you want to be as healthy as you can be for as long as possible, and then ideally drop dead, right? And so how do we achieve this? And there's this whole industry around longevity. It's kind of a hot topic in the recent past. And just like everything else in life, I'm like, okay, let me cut through the fluff and figure out what the core essence of longevity is, especially right now with the technology we have and so on and so forth. And having been in the health space for over 20 years, having studied sport, nutrition, medicine, like I've got somewhat expertise in the area. And a lot of the things, the big core factors, which are the 80-20, the 90-10, the 99-1 of longevity, are all the things we know, like body composition, having muscle, not too much fat, like eating well, like nutritious food, getting enough sleep. Like that is longevity. That is the 80-20 of it. And so doubling down on those things is what is gonna, like, how many people struggle in later life because of frailty? What is frailty? It's lack of muscle mass, right? People lose independence, they fall, they break their hips, game over, right? Or they can no longer live alone because they're too weak, literally. Muscle mass solves that. Suddenly your health span has expanded by 20 years. And we haven't reached the technology to significantly expand health beyond what those basics are doing for us. There's lots of hacks and other things, but usually they're just replacing the basics, right? Like, whether it's peptides, whether it's technologies like red lights, all this kind of stuff. Like, the sun emits red lights, like you can also use the sun. What? Blows my mind. Or like, these grounding sheets, like, you can just like touch grass, and like biohacking is literally trying to achieve nature when nature is not accessible. And so you can't miss the wood for the trees and get obsessed by biohacking when actually all you need to do is like vigorous physical activity outside, right? That's like 99% of biohacking, you know? And so, yeah, that's kind of the high level take on longevity. And then look, I love nerding out. You alluded to it. I love experimenting. And so I will dip into these like rabbit holes because they're interesting, because they're fun. And 1 in 10, maybe 1 in 100, I will keep. The rest of them I'll discard as something which is a fad. I've been here like so long. I've seen these fads come and go. When people come to me and like, oh my God, megadose creatine like helps with sleep and cognition. I'm like, oh, we were doing this in 2005. It was called loading. And now it's like, it's trendy again. Like, I mean, it fell out of fashion. It's back again. Sure. Good. Take 15 grams of creatine if you want. Sure. You know, like it's not a game changer here. Like actually you just need to go to bed and build some muscle.
Okay. So let's get into this. Like what is fundamental? What is a game changer? What is best left to the professionals, right? Like, and I mean, you're probably better to even define this, but I'm going to start on an easy one that I know you have thoughts on, right? Entrepreneurs. Generally, most people listening to this, they're building something. It's hard work, it's long hours, it's, you know, a ton of mental and physical energy. So stimulants, like good or bad?
Everything is context dependent. Like all a stimulant does is activate the essentially adrenergic system in the body. What is that? Adrenaline, right? Like how can you activate adrenaline? Like have a bear jump out at you, right? Like that's a stimulant. And so all we are doing, yeah, for sure, like all I'm doing is, look, I'm sitting behind a desk, bored as shit, trying to work on a spreadsheet. I would love some adrenaline right now. There's no bears, okay. But what can I use to activate my adrenaline, which doesn't require a bear? Amazing, energy drink, caffeine, stimulants, like that's all I'm doing. Again, it's replicating nature. And so are they good at what they do? Of course they are, 100%. They create what you want. Should you be, you know, having bears jump out at you 24/7, months on end? Probably not. Yeah, that's kind of the answer. All my answers will be, it depends, by the way. Like I'm the most annoying person ever, which is one of the reasons I gave up on social media, because no one wants to hear it depends. They want to hear definitive, this is what you need to do. Everything else is bullshit. I can't do that. I can't.
Emil, I need a clip that sells this episode. Let's go.
Bears.
No, I'm kidding. No, I want to get into it. I want the nuance, right? Like the devil's in the details, right? Cliches are for a reason. Like the more you understand it, right? And that's why I asked you that question, right? I was like, good or bad? I know that the answer isn't good or bad, but the ability to leverage, track your own metrics, be self-aware, right? You know, like I don't drink energy drinks, not necessarily because I think they're bad, partly because I think they taste like ass. Second, and they've probably gotten way better since the days of Red Bull, but also, you know, because I feel like my heart will explode, right? And that is just, you know, not conducive, and sleep. But I do drink coffee, so obviously don't think that they're bad. I've cycled on and off of it in different ways. I've learned, I've read, I've reflected on my own experience. Like, and I think that is actually fantastic, and I think it's led me to self-awareness about other things as well, regarding other habits around sleep, regarding anxiety, which isn't just caffeine induced, you know, so I'm a big fan. You said, you know, get outside and lift heavy things, but that's another question. So time away from screen, that one I'm not even going to ask. Like, I get away from your screen. But walking, regular daily movement, outside time, being in nature, things that regulate your nervous system versus heavy weights in the gym. Like, I know you do both, but someone who is like maybe struggling, like what would you tell them, right? I mean, you've coached, and maybe this is where you dig into coaching these very successful entrepreneurs who were not healthy. Maybe this is just the TLDR of that experience.
Yeah. I mean, look, the nice benchmark is like, what did like prehistoric people do? They lived outside, they slept according to the light, they occasionally like chased things and lifted things and built things, and they tended not to sit in front of screens, right? Like that's what we evolved to do. And so let's get as close to that as possible. And you know, it's a little bit of a misnomer. They had huge like amounts of infectious diseases and whatever else, and so we can alter it slightly. We live longer, and so building muscle is important. But like, once you've defined the optimal, which is, you know, 8 hours sleep, being a certain amount of body fat, having enough muscle, being functional, flexible, not being sedentary, you've defined the optimal. Then you need to go to where you are right now, like a very honest take. And then you need to define step one, right? And so, you know, you're saying, is it like regulation? Is it weights? Yes, is the answer. Which one? The one that you can do consistently. And maybe it's walking. Maybe you live in the UK and it's not walking, right? And maybe then it's going to the gym. Maybe you enjoy going to the gym. Maybe you're recently single and want to get a bit jacked. Amazing. Now you have a motivation to go to the gym. Ride that motivation. It's built-in software. Take it. Go with it. And so at the beginning, if you're starting from zero, any action is good. But you can't bullshit yourself. You can't be like, oh, I do 4,000 steps a day. It's so much better than before. It is, but it's still shit, right? It's like, hey, I train in the gym twice a week. Amazing. It's infinitely better than before, but it's still not enough, right? And we kind of have to be like, hey, I lost 10 pounds. Great, but there's still 30 more to go. You know, like we have to have that dose of reality to be like, look, great job. Let's keep going. But we can't rest on our laurels. And so let's define the optimal and assume we're never going to reach it. Let's define where we are now, and let's just start taking steps. And like with alignment and life, it's just about the journey. It's just about each day taking a step in that direction and iterating when you don't. Why did I not go for a walk? Like, how can I change that next time? Is there a system I can build? Can I curate my environment? And let's just make this inevitable. And so that's the process at a very high level. And that's all I do when I coach people. It's like, where are they right now? Like, what's an intervention we can add? Let's try things. Let's figure stuff out. Go from there.
So I'm going to ask you one more question. I'm very conscious, you know, you've been so generous with your time and knowledge. Peptides, supplements in general, like shortcut that works, or don't bother until you have the basic foundations? We get sexy headlines about Wolverine stacks, which I'm like, I want to be a Wolverine. What is maybe just the perspective in how to even consider assessing that?
Peptides have been around forever.
Space.
Yeah, peptides have been around forever. They're just now becoming slightly fatty, whatever, you know, it's a thing, but they're not new. And so when someone says peptides, good or bad, it's like saying supplements, good or bad, food, good or bad. Like there's a huge broad range of things that you can't like uniformly put in a bucket. Some of them have certain uses, which can help with certain things. The Wolverine stack can help with healing joints. But if you're not also rehabbing the joint, if you're not also resting, if you're not avoiding what caused the injury in the first place, it's literally pointless. And then the other thing is the joint will probably heal on its own as well. And so, like, does the Wolverine stack help? Sure. Would it have done everything? Would it have healed on its own? Maybe. Do you still need to do all the other things? Yes. And so the biggest and easiest takeaway is do the basics, make them consistent. If you want to dabble with other stuff, like experiment, play, I'm all for that. The biggest thing for me is, like when I took creatine back when I was 18, I took my first dose. I thought I had superpowers. I was suddenly training more. I was like much more consistent. I was eating better. And so the placebo effect, the kind of aura of doing these things, it builds the identity of I'm a person who's really into this. And if that causes everything else to happen, double thumbs up from me. But if you're like, hey, I'm just going to use peptides and not bother with anything else, you're missing the wood from the trees. for the trees. And so a final thought, there's this concept of near enemies, which I came across literally the other day, and it really struck me. And the issue with near enemies is they feel right, they feel good, and they're more insidious than obvious enemies. Eating burgers all the time, obvious enemy. Supplements and peptides, near enemy. Because if you do them and think that they're going to save you, you'll come out 10 years later in the same place as you are right now. So you need to be very, very careful. You need to do the basics. The basics cannot be replaced. Add other stuff in. Don't miss the wood for the trees.
I love that. We have 5 rapid fire questions, 1 word, 1 sentence, skip whatever you want. Just before we jump into them, we'll make sure to put it in the notes, but what's the best way if people do want to find you, work with you, buy from the company? How should they be looking for you?
So the best bets is, my Instagram for connection, and I post vaguely funny things, which half of which is a joke. You just don't know which half. Don't take me seriously, basically. So that's Dr. Emil Official, DREMIL Official on Instagram. And then thelongevity.clinic.net is our website. We haven't updated it yet. But yeah, just hit me up on Instagram is probably the best bet.
Amazing. Are you ready?
Let's go.
What's one decision that changed everything for you as a leader?
One decision that changed everything for me as a leader. Being lazy, just refusing to get into the weeds.
Amazing. What does strategy feel like when you're doing it well?
It feels like alignments, like flow. It feels good.
Amazing. Is there a book, podcast, or person that really cracked something open for you?
Many. Atomic Habits is the one that comes to mind. Like, the lessons from that book are timeless, like for every aspect of life.
100%. It's the first book I give to every client, even though I'm working on their business.
Same, and I work with health. Like, it's the first book I send people.
Yeah. What's something you've said never again to in your business?
Compromising boundaries.
If you had a free weekend and 0 obligations, how would you spend it?
Someone asked me this. They said, where in the world would you like to be right now? And I said, like, right here, because if I didn't want to be here, I wouldn't. Like, I have free, my whole life is free. I have 0 obligations. I can be anywhere I want. I can do anything I want. And so right here, right now, in this moment, like chatting to you in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, is exactly where I want to be right now.
I love it. Emil, thank you for your time, for your insights. This conversation has been phenomenal. I am so grateful. That's a wrap for this episode of Builders, where we get real about what it actually takes to grow companies that perform without grinding you into the ground. If today's convo sparks something for you, here's what to do next. Follow the show, drop a 5-star review, and share it with someone else who's building big. Don't let it be lonely at the top. If you're ready for more clarity, more leadership freedom, and less of a duct tape and go growth vibe, let's connect. Book your free business breakdown call using the link in the show notes. In 30 minutes, I'll help you pinpoint where blockers in your time, team, or strategy are silently stalling your growth. Walk away with a personalized fix-it list that gives you the clarity you've been craving on what to shift now to regain traction and build momentum. For more tools, insights, and my no-fluff takes on leadership and scaling strategically, join the Builders Club, also linked in the show notes. You can also head over to leaderswhobuild.com, where you'll find all the links to peep my creds, see client wins, or just confirm that yes, I went to the gym today. Until next time, keep leading boldly, building smart, and living success on your terms.